So I have Disney Plus, and I was kind of in that stage between Christmas and New Year's where time just sort of doesn't exist. Ended up stumbling across Dead Poet Society, and I'm like, oh yeah, that movie is used in like every sermon illustration ever. So I figured, hey, let's watch it, and it's got Robin Williams in it. So, this can't be too bad. So here we're going to go for a spoiler-free review of Dead Poet Society. Dead Poet Society is probably like the definitive cool teacher in a bad school movie. It's kind of like if School of Rock was set in high school, but instead of being about music, it was about poetry. Instead of being a barrel of laughs so the teacher gets off basically scot-free, it gets really dark and real, and no, I didn't cry, thank you very much. Despite all of this though, it's still optimistic. The overall theme of the movie is that the school system is bad because it tries to quantify art and focuses on teaching how to pass tests and exams rather than how to live your life. That's definitely not still relevant now. It is a critique on overemphasizing trying to live your life according to a set of rules or constraints rather than just living and assessing your life as you go. The parallel being when people arbitrarily apply rules to poetry to try to quantify the quality of the art, or you can just have art have it be, and it is what it is, in the same way that the way you live is what it is and can't be assessed according to a strict set of rules. And that's kind of where a lot of the sermon analogies come in when they talk about this movie. Essentially, the film is about living life freely, which was also what Jesus was all about. These two seem to parallel themselves really well. And you thought I was just gonna talk about a movie, but no, I actually, had a point to this. Whoa. The book of Galatians is Paul writing to the church in Galatia basically saying, hey guys, you should stop emphasizing following the law and remember the whole it's your faith that saves you thing. Because the Galatians have forgotten this, even to the point where they're influencing Peter, as in, that Peter. They're influencing him into following the law rather than focusing on faith. And this guy, literally hung out with Jesus. So there's clearly a big problem in that pressure to try to be perfect, try to follow every law to the letter, rather than remembering it's about faith. It all really comes to a head in Galatians 3, which, to paraphrase, the law shows a godly way of living, but our salvation comes from Jesus promising a place in heaven if we trust him. If you do trust someone completely, the logical thing is to trust their way of living. But because it's Jesus' promise of salvation, failing to manage to follow every law doesn't suddenly take away that promise or that devotion to us. The rules show us these are good things to do, but don't beat yourself up because you fail to do them all, because no one is ever going to follow every law perfectly all the time. There's just part of us being broken, but that is okay. God's promise to Abraham wasn't conditional. In fact, he kept trying to go against God constantly, and God's like, well, hang on, I'm still going to come through for you, okay? Similarly, he promised King David what was going to happen. His family line was going to live forever. And David messed up and lots of things went wrong, but God still maintained that promise. And in the same way, his promise to us isn't contingent on us following the law perfectly. We aren't going to be able to do that. We can trust that the law shows us the right way to live, but our salvation is not dependent on our ability to follow the law. Our salvation is dependent entirely on Jesus saying, hey, do you trust me? We're good. That's all it is. It's okay to fail. Your life can't be constrained or reduced to a simple adhesion to rules in the same way art can't be reduced to a simple adhesion to rules. It's all about you as a person. Do we have that trust in him? And do we want that to shape the way we live our lives?